Thanks a lot. And thanks everybody out there on the live side. And if you're going to be watching on demand, that's great. Really excited. I am Joe Grisafi. I'm the head of agency partnerships at Ampersand. Just quickly, Ampersand, we believe in moving TV forward by enabling advertisers to reach and measure audiences across all TV screens. We simplify and enhance advertising TV investments empowered by rich viewership insights against the largest TV inventory footprint in the industry. And for that reason alone, I'm excited to be part of this program and lead the panel here titled Audience 2.0, What's on the Horizon. So just to give you a little taste of what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about the development, enhancement of internal data planning tools that align with brands, specifically Lynn, and her specific company's preferred audiences. We're going to take a dive into that alignment with the brands and look at that first party new age targeting for the agency stakeholders, enhance building their audiences using planning tools in-house. It's a critical connection point right now. You hear this word a lot, table stakes. It's table stakes in the next phase of advertising growth for client, agency, and media vendors in the TV marketplace. So that gives you a little flavor of what we're going to be talking about. I'm joined by some of the leading minds, forward thinkers that are driving the industry to new levels. And I have the privilege to work with the largest independent agency in the US, Horizon Media, wave guys, and across leading brands like Lynn and Hershey's. I wanted to do a more formal introduction to the panel itself. We just said before, and we just briefly introduced, but Lynn Hemans is the Vice President of Consumer Intelligence and Analytics for Hershey's. Her focus is to accelerate growth for the Hershey's company, $8 billion business, and 80 plus brands, many of them which I probably have in my house. So thank you, including consumer insights, intelligence, and strategic revenue growth and management. So welcome, Lynn. For the Horizon side, joined by three major change agents. Laura McElhinney is the Chief Data Officer. She is a key member of Horizon's governance and committee that leads the agency's media technology and data team. She's over 25 years of experience in the media and agency business, bringing together a unique blend of knowledge, technology background, and the development on client side business consultancy, and is critical in spearheading the implementation of their state-of-the-art data technology platform and seamlessly integrating and analyzing and distributing the enhanced client data, both from a meaningful and actionable throughout the entire data-driven ecosystem. So Laura, thank you for being with me. Laura Chaplin is the SVP of National Investments. Laura is a lifetime Horizon employee, 15 plus years. She is managing the national video buying for Hershey's and other big brands. Lauren is a wealth of knowledge, not only from the ever-changing media landscape, she also obviously knows TV on the linear side, but is also an expert in premium video, OTT, and advanced data targeting. Welcome, Lauren. And to round out the group, Phelan. Megan, hello, SVP, Head of Product for Blue. Megan is an ad tech industry veteran with extensive audience curation and platform development experience. She is currently Blue, Horizon Media Data's platform head of product and manages that product directly. So that rounds out our group. I'm excited to talk about what we're going to be kind of jumping into here overall. And ultimately, let's get the conversation started. Obviously, this is Brand Innovators. So I think it's most appropriate, Lynn, that we start with you. Just jump right in. I mean, obviously, Hershey's has years of data obviously collected 80 plus brands, we just said, from consumer side. Obviously, it could be used now to target audiences effectively on all media platforms. So it's not just a digital tactic where you can use kind of the standard digital third-party, first-party tactics in terms of tags, et cetera. Big brands like yourself need to activate this data and to best inform targets holistically. So, how is Hershey's using data to evolve and better target the consumers on TV now that it's more holistic? Lynn, if you could jump in there and just kind of give us a little flavor.
Sure, Joe, and thank you so much for having us today. I think this is an exciting panel and definitely an exciting topic. And there are some cutting edge things happening right now, and we're so excited to have this conversation. But as you know, putting the consumer front and center is absolutely critical. However, when targeting is focused on traditional demographic targets, let's say 18 to 49, and enrich where possible with third-party data, it's really difficult to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time. Well, that's all changing. New tools and technology and digital breadcrumbs, aka data, can be wired together to give rich insight into consumers. Today, a company's growth relies on more meaningful interactions with consumers, which need to be enabled by a deep data-driven understanding of who consumers are and how they behave.
It's great. And with all that information, Lynn, as a brand, what are you looking for in partnership tools? There's obviously from the agency side, the vendor side, the technology side. How does this all factor in shaping what Hershey's is trying to do from a consumer targeting roadmap? You could kind of give us a little flavor of kind of that build because you're at the pinnacle of that.
Sure. We're always looking for agencies, vendors, and technology that allow us to create a full picture of consumers' desires and behaviors at the consumer level. We connect first-party, second-party, and third-party information together to create rich understanding of all of our consumers. And this has helped us to get really deep in sophistication. By leveraging the understanding of consumers' desires and behaviors, we can engage in new and existing consumers at the right time and the right place and satisfy the cravings, our consumers' cravings with the products that we have. In addition, we can get really precise on measurement and analytics, which we can use to optimize our investments.
It's great. When you think of, and Lauren and I were talking about this when we were kind of doing a lot of you think about Hershey's, you think about everyone eats chocolate, but it's not that. You have 80 brands that have profiles specifically built, and that's a great kind of bridge to the agency side. And what exactly are we looking at as the agency community has to adjust to these needs that Lynn just laid out. How is Horizon doing this? I kind of mentioned obviously Megan's role, but tell us a little bit about the roadmap journey that Horizon is taking, the relationship that has been built specifically with Hershey's, obviously, and much more holistic, but in terms of powering the client with agency targeting. Megan, if you could kind of jump in, and I know you've been a orchestrator on this side, it'd be great to educate us all.
Sure. So we created Blue, which you mentioned before. We call Blue internally a connected marketing platform, and it's underpinned by an identity framework. The reason why we don't just call it identity framework, which most people do with their identity solutions, is because the goal is really to connect everything that Lynn's doing from a marketing standpoint with what we do from a media standpoint, right? And so Blue was created as an open API platform, so we plug directly into our clients' tech stacks. That identity framework, we have about 283 unique individuals, and we have a 360 view profile on them. So going back to Lynn was saying, like, what really makes that consumer consume that specific brand of chocolate and when, and how are they consuming it against the competition? It's really understanding all of those things through our data partnerships that we have within Blue, and then using our data science team to really take all the tools that they've built, model, and understand what is that consumer going to do next. Are they going to try a new SKU? Are we going to get them to buy more? Or is it just to have them come back more time? So really understanding through our data science that we layer on top of all of our tech, connecting it directly into our clients' tech stacks is how we kind of orchestrate that overall journey from our consumers.
Lynn, how do you work back and forth with Megan to call it massage and get that audience right? I mean, obviously, it's not a one-shot deal. I'm sure there's a back and forth that you guys work some kind of cadence. What is that like?
You know, we were working on an ecosystem of individual consumers before our partnership started with Horizon. And then we discovered Blue and discovered what Horizon had built. And no pun intended, I was like a kid in a candy store. It is just amazing. Their system is extremely complementary to ours. And then we found a way to tie them together. And so Horizon is really an extension of our team. I consider our partnership extremely critical for unlocking future growth at the Hershey company. And I couldn't be more excited what's ahead for us.
And if I could just jump in there for a minute, I think this is what makes our relationship so incredible is the collaboration. So when Megan was talking about that connected marketing platform, it's about connecting to all the tech that our clients may use and also all the tech that our partners, Ampersand for instance, use. We want to make sure that it's seamless, the back and forth. Data is owned by the client. The client owns their data. It should be portable. It should be able to be utilized to help grow their brands, right? And I think that's what this relationship has been for us. It's been a way to help grow and work collectively with our partner holistically. So, collaboration has been so amazing. Thank you, Lynn. Appreciate it.
And jump in too, and Joe, you're going to be mad that you picked us all for this panel because we like to talk. But so to go back on what they were saying about collaboration, and that's kind of why we called it a connected marketing platform, right? It's like brands have nailed marketing. They kill it. They've done it for a million years, and they speak really well to their consumer, and it's a pull and play. And then media's kind of been off on the side to do their own kind of job. And our job we see with Blue is to really collaborate with our clients to bring those things together and have it be one job of like, what is the overall goal of our brands?
Yeah, I would imagine that also it's informing what you guys are building, enhancing the infrastructure and having clients like Lynn help that. Is there again a day-to-day process that goes in? Is it done, as you look at specific brands, obviously not all 80 may be used all at once, but is there a process that goes into that? It would be great to kind of like hear how that back and forth works, especially like that's one thing of curating the audiences, but also informing how platform needs to be built and enhanced.
Yeah, 1000%. So, when we embarked on building Blue, which is about 4 or 5 years ago, we built it because we knew cookies eventually would be going away. Did I think it was going to take this long? No, I didn't. I thought it was going to be years ago, but it is what it is. Right. Here we are. So we had built the platform specifically for the future. And that's exactly what we continue to do, is looking at the future, looking at what our client base is going to help inform what data we bring in, right? It's not cost effective for us to buy every single data asset that's out there of clients that we could potentially have. That's, we're not a data company, although I'd like to think we are. Bill does not, want me to spend all that money. But that's part of the collaboration with our brands as well. So, in partnership with Lynn and with Hershey, they've purchased some data that they've had in-house. They've negotiated it so that we can utilize it to drive as well as using the data that we have in our house. And when we look at our infrastructure, we're never going to be done, right? Because technology changes every single day and everybody wants what that shiny new toy is. And so we're constantly looking to the future of what that shiny new toy is. I mean, we were in the clean room space long before our partners were talking about clean rooms. We knew that it was going to be a thing. Data privacy is always at the forefront of everything we do. And we wanted to make sure that our partners were comfortable with how we're handling data, how we're sharing data, and how we're utilizing it, particularly not just from the activation standpoint and being able to use first-party data to activate on, but also from the measurement perspective, making sure that we're staying data compliant. So, when we look at our roadmap is always forward thinking, and we're always looking 2-3 years ahead to make sure that we're ahead of the curve. And so today it happens to be, all about clean rooms, which we've already solved for on our side, but it's working with our partners to help them build that on their side so that we can play nice in the sandbox. But also, data privacy and consumer opt-ins and consumer consent is a huge piece of where we're going with new regulations coming into play in 2023.
Laura, do you feel like the system needs to be an open ecosystem right now because of the flexibility that you need for using Lynn as an example to connect with various compliance avenues?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, the days of everybody keeping everything so close is gone. If you don't collaborate with your partners, whether it be your media partners or your tech partners, then you're all going to be left behind, right? And you're not going to be able to work on behalf of your brands, which is what you want to do. At the end of the day, we all just want to make money. The media side, the vendor side, the brand side, and we have to find a way to do that cohesively together. And collaboration is one of the ways we do that.
Sure. And when you think about, there are major agencies across the marketplace that, some are building their own, some are, have partnerships that they've, combined. What is your passion point in terms of what you guys have built internally and why that is an advantage in terms of working with a client like Lynn? And then also the flexibility of growth and where you guys see the future expanding to. Just look at Blue as itself as it evolves. I don't know who wants to take that, but
I mean, because I like to talk a lot. I'm sorry, guys. I'll jump right in and then you can dovetail on it. I am a huge proponent of rent, build, buy, right? There's some people who have done things better than I can do, and that's fine to rent or buy it, right? But what owning, the primary part of owning your technology does for you is it allows you flexibility and allows you to do what you need to do to pivot and shift. And I think we go back to that term of connected marketing platform, which, I think Megan made it up, but I love it. Is because we do have that flexibility, the flexibility to play with our media partners, the flexibility to play and share tech and share data that we have with our brands as well, right? So that we're working off of the same scorecard. And, we as an agency, we work with many other agencies. We collaborate. Not all of our clients have us managing their entire portfolio, right? So you have to be able to collaborate with your other partners for the greater good of the brand in and of itself.
That's great. And I do have a question down the road, Megan, for you on, what's the best use case and case study. I wanted to pivot a little bit to the marketplace itself. Lauren, I'd love for you to jump in, maybe Megan jump in with this. It's like, so why do you guys think together and just in the head of, from Lynn and Hershey's, why a well-defined audience and building that audience is critical specifically for TV media business growth? Lauren, you've been in the marketplace a long time, kind of managing this. You see an evolution. I would love to get your opinion on how you see that.
Sure. I think in this marketplace, we're in a unique challenge with linear TV. As ratings continue to decline, right, demand is outpacing supply. So both buyers and sellers need to be smarter about reevaluating these finite GRPs. Traditionally, these GRPs for Hershey and for most other brands were a reach play. Linear TV is still where you're going to go to get the quickest reach, and that's not going to change. But as that's becoming more and more finite, we need to be more strategic about placing our dollars in the marketplace. And there's a lot of talk about alternative measurement and other solutions. And really, we're not looking to go from an 18 to 49 demo from Nielsen to use another source of measurement, or even to go broader than 18 to 49. The ultimate goal here is to attribute TV advertising to sales goals. And really, that's what we've set up this infrastructure for with Hershey. And I think that we've done a really good job of defining that audience on a brand by brand level, because now what we're able to do is pull levers based on each brand's KPIs in this addressable and advanced TV space. Some of our brands have a household penetration KPI, and each brand is different. So what does that mean now that we have this target? We need to start diving deeper into data-driven television, into addressable TV, and ultimately have that closed loop, right, attribution to see those results on the back end, and then to start to optimize as we have been doing in digital TV for quite some time.
And, you know, it's interesting. We see this in the marketplace where as digital and streaming came along, it was the easiest place to go to incremental reach. But we're starting to have the intelligence now to show that in the TV space, in that space still, there is incremental reach to attain. And I think that's a huge opportunity, not to dismiss the streaming part, because obviously we want to cover TV as a whole. Lynn, we talked about this. And I completely understand that. And the other part that you mentioned is the different KPIs. I'm wondering if you could kind of go into that a little bit more, since we're on this. You know, how does it change the tactics of TV targeting? You know, there's brand awareness. If, Lynn, you're launching a new product, obviously, or there's a new packaging, a new name, or there's, you know, obviously sales, which are very, very important. And just, could you kind of like give us a little bit of that, how that changes things now? Much more digital tactic, you know, Megan, that you kind of probably have the background on, you know, for your career. Can we talk a little bit about that now in the TV space, Lauren?
Yeah, I can kind of jump in, and then Megan, if you want to dovetail on that. But I think that based on the brand, right, Hershey's and Reese has a very different KPI than, say, some of the smaller variety brands like an Almond Joy. And what they're ultimately trying to do is different things. It is a lot harder to convert someone who isn't a purchaser than it is, right, to work on someone to convert them, right? So when we look at TV as a reach vehicle, it's about awareness. It's about retaining that viewer. How do we then shift our mindset now that we could get addressably tactics within linear to start reaching those other consumers that we might not necessarily look at from a linear TV perspective in the past?
Yeah. And not even just like from an overall KPI, from like a Reese standpoint, right? Like within Reese, there's multiple KPIs by audience, and that's really what Blue lets us do, right? It's like all of our data providers are connected at the most atomic level. And I spoke a little about our marketing science practice. And to me, I think that's really what shines here and what sets us apart is that their modeling and like mining capabilities are so strong that we can actually take a full Reese target and then break it up based on specific KPIs. So instead of buying all Reese buyers addressably, it's which ones actually need that TV weight involved there to do whatever KPI that is. If it is bringing them into as a household, or is it trying like a new SKU? So because we can now mine for business outcomes, we could then place media directly based on those that correlate to that outcome.
Yeah, we're a true believer of, you know, creating a universe. And I always say a custom universe. And, you know, like you said, Reese would be one universe, and, you know, Kiss will be another universe, and Kit Kat's another universe. I mean, you technically, in the world that we're living in now, we can create unique universes. And I think that's an opportunity specifically. Lauren, what are you looking for now from vendors for best in class? You know, as you look at the upfront and look at, you know, call it the next year, is definitely change as we come out of COVID. Everybody's more comfortable with the fact that we're able to curate data, curate audience insights specifically, and I think that's important. What do you see? How do you see your world with Lynn and the team evolving as you move forward?
I think as we head into the upfront and look for opportunities within traditional linear partners, I think two key things we're looking for is really transparency and the partnership on success. So for us, we've done all this great work, mining, curating, and customizing these target audiences. We have the hookups, and we don't want to send, you know, all of our good data out to 3 weeks later, get a plan and say, okay, here's where your audience is. You know, to us, that's not a partnership. That's not what we're looking to do in this space. What we're looking to is for full transparency, to understand the match rates, to understand the tech involved, fees or not, and really to analyze these plans with a partner to understand where our audience is and where that potential is to ultimately see the back end results. So we're able to learn and optimize for the future. And I think partners that are willing to go on that ride with us are the ones that we really want to invest in. And it is like a partner like Ampersand who can, you know, we have the access to a dashboard. We can see along the way how the audiences are being created and what those match rates are. Like that's the piece that we want. And that's when we select our partners, what we're looking for.
And just to dovetail on that, and Lauren, you hit the nail on the head. Having partners that are going to integrate with our Blue ID is key for us, because then we do know the match rates up front. There's no guessing work, right? And it makes it more seamless. So when Lauren's going through all of her planning, she already can see, you know, based on the audience that Megan's curated and what their KPIs are, she can already see where she's going to have, you know, the biggest bang for her buck, if you will. And having that up front and having, you know, partners that aren't only going to integrate with our ID up front, but also on the back end for measurement is absolutely key. And I think it's a big part of all of their negotiations up, you know, going into the upfronts.
Yeah, and I would say, like, especially in linear TV, the optimization part of it tends to be challenging, right? Results are a little bit delayed. We can't act as quick as we can in digital, but there is an opportunity to be able to optimize and to start pivoting in that direction. And I think that's the key piece to that back-end attribution that we're looking for too.
Lynn, that must help immensely, especially with different brands and different strategies that you have, and looking at the analytics from that end to see that what is being used new or enhancements to things that, Lauren, you would normally, you know, just be doing as kind of table stakes specifically for national media, but then to be able to optimize and constantly be able to see how you could change that through an audience, right? Is that pretty accurate? What I'm saying?
Absolutely. I can't reinforce what Lauren and Laura said enough. The transparency, the measurement, the connectedness, and being able to pivot darn near close to real time is extremely important to optimize our opportunities.
Great. Laura, what are you looking for from on the data side, the partners that you are trying to build bridges with? Obviously, it's an evolution and it's a journey, but you know, what would you say to the community of where you, I mean, obviously you said you played clean room for before probably the word came out, clean room, but I would love to know that a little bit more, so we have a little bit of understanding, kind of like where you see the pathway. We obviously all want one. There's not going to be one, at least for now. Just curious your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think deterministic is key, right? So partners that have their own identity spine, if you will, that plays a huge role for us. And there are still many partners out there who don't, whether they just don't have the resources to get there, or you know, they're too small and it's too not cost effective. But you know, even if you're working with a third party to help you with your identity, that's key for us, right? That deterministic level is key to be able to match back to our ID. And if it's a data provider, and even working with our media partners that have their own data, and we utilize that to enrich Blue like we do with you, right? If we're matching against our ID and we need to blow out an audience, we know that we can do that with you because we're talking the same language, right? We're talking about that same deterministic ID, that same level of granularity. And that's really what we're looking for. You know, knowing where data privacy is going, making sure that people are following the guidelines and they're following consumer consent appropriately. That's also a huge proponent for us to make sure that people are ahead of the game, so that when 2023 comes, there's no surprises.
Yeah, the advice that you would give Lauren, you know, and Megan, as you guys are looking to enhance partnerships, I think it's really important for you to, you know, kind of look into what is that like? Is that a constant day-to-day that you go into, try to find? Is it something that you lead the pathway to those vendors to say, this is where you need to be? Because obviously some of the traditional vendors may not be there.
I mean, we've been leading the pathway for for quite some time. We've been ahead of the pack, and it's been frustrating too, because it's taken people a while to catch up. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm
They
sure.
can't move fast enough. You know, we're lucky that we're privately held, so I think it's a little bit easier for us to move. We're a little bit more nimble, I think, than some of our holding company partners. And even some of the media partners, you know, they're huge conglomerates, right? Sometimes it's just harder for them to pivot.
I just wanted to get to some of the questions. I thought it'd be good to jump in right now. Just looking into this right now. What do we have here? Can we hear some comments from the panel? This will probably be you, Laura, about what they think about Nielsen's Big Data initiative. Are you factoring this into this year's upfront? Maybe Lauren, you as well. Just trying to understand that from an audience perspective. Do anybody want to jump into that?
Lauren, I'll let you take it first, just in regards to the upfront and currency and how you're looking at them, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, so from a currency perspective, I think we all agree that in 2023, Nielsen's going to be the main front runner. I don't think anything's going to change as quickly as we'd all like it to be. But with the big data piece, obviously Nielsen is trying to keep up and try to get back some of their worth. But we are exploring other opportunities, and I don't think it's going to be a one-size-fits-all marketplace, right? And for us, again, I think it's less about an alternative guarantee on adults 18 to 49. For us, it's about how do we start moving to target against our blue audiences and ultimately guaranteeing against sales, right? That's, I think, especially before COVID, there was a lot of talk about business outcome guarantees and how we move in that direction. And obviously things changed and shifted. And I do think we're in an opportunity now to start heading in that direction. The first step to that is aligning on our target audiences, right? Being able to talk that same language that Laura was saying, so we could then feel comfortable about guaranteeing against what truly matters for our clients, which is ultimately business outcomes in their sales.
How hard is it to do that, Lauren, if, you know, obviously you're buying, you do your negotiation on an upfront basis universally for Hershey's, but yet every brand has a specific objective and may have a different objective. Lynn, you could jump in on this as well. I mean, obviously things change then, you know, you got to look things not so much macro, more micro.
Yeah. Well, without giving away our secret sauce, I would say that we are very brand specific driven. We don't look at Hershey's as a corporate client. We look at each brand within the portfolio as a specific client with specific needs and different KPIs, just like Lynn on her end has different KPIs for each of the brands that she has to answer for. We do the same thing from a buying perspective. So sure, it's a little bit more legwork on the front end and through optimizations, but that's truly the lens we see success with the Hershey's business and how we continue to operate.
And I would add as well as the detailed information that Horizon has and the way we've merged it together, literally at the atomic level, allows other brands to have different KPIs. In addition, the way we're working together to get all this information close to real time allows us to pivot and change the outcomes, as opposed to, you know, set it and forget it. Those days are long past, and now it's literally about connecting in real time, making sure that we're optimizing everything.
How did, you know, obviously you've gotten really comfortable in using your insights, which is fantastic. And I think that's driven the relationship here and the future. You know, what would be the recommendation for brands out there? This is a brand focused, obviously, forum, to dig in and understand a little bit better on how this could be an activation and a efficient learning tool to grow the business. Anything you wanted to jump in on that?
I would say get very comfortable with everything at the individual level, and don't be intimidated by big pieces of data that can be wired together. Be very comfortable in making decisions in real time and making sure that we have the proper reporting structure and the relationship to activate and kind of change what's going on so you can take advantage of that. And then the thing that I could not stress enough is the relationship we have with Horizon. I mentioned earlier that they're an extension of our team. And what you'll notice in my title, you don't see the word media. because I get the honor and the privilege of working on our consumer intelligence and analytics. And absolutely, Horizon is critical to this value equation.
It's great.
Just jumping in there, Joe, sorry, but
please.
big thing for the brands is that there's still misconception on the ability to share data. And I think that that's hugely important. If you are working with a brand that does have first party data in-house, right? Not all brands do, I get that. But for the ones that do, don't be afraid to share it and utilize it with your agency. Don't be afraid to work closer with them, because the benefits far outweigh any negativity at all. I mean, yes, do your due diligence from a data audit perspective and security perspective. Absolutely. Put them through the ringer, go through an InfoSec audit. Absolutely. But once you do that and you feel comfortable, you should not be afraid to share your data. The reason why we're very successful with Hershey is because it is literally an open relationship and data flows both ways. And we're utilizing it and working off of one sense of truth. So even with Lynn doing work in-house on something completely different, we're still working off of that same one sense of truth. And that's very important.
Critical, obviously, that collaboration. The last question I had that I hear is, what would be one great example case study? Obviously, you don't have to release any brand information, anything that would be a great story. Megan, you and I talked about, there's been such great examples of that out there. I'm wondering, between you and Lauren, if there was something that you could share with somebody that share with the group, what is a great example of that.
Yeah, I would say and I don't know if it's an actual example, but from my perspective, it's starting from the planning, right? Because I think that agencies historically have been ingrained in reach frequency, relying on Nielsen and those tools to carry you through to all the way to buying. And really, it's changing that mentality. So it's being able to plan against the target, being able to marry it to a partner that has the ability to connect to your first party data. And for me, ultimately, it's when you're able to see as close to real-time results and be able to react quick enough to make changes and to implement additions to that in order to then see sales on the back end. For me, it is that 360, right? We talk about like that closed loop, being able to isolate that, especially, I know the challenges within linear TV, but being able to do that and having a client and agency on board to be a little bit more comfortable and uncomfortable, right? Taking that risk, which I think we do a lot with Hershey, is ultimately what I would think is like the best success story.
Megan, is there anything on your end? I know that, obviously you're coming from the data side and but matching things together it's a little bit of more, it becomes more of art with science, right? And so I think that's probably a good example, especially with the brand portfolio with Hershey's.
Yeah, not from like, I don't know how to give a good case study without giving away too much, but I would say is that integration is probably the key, and obviously surpassing any kind of third party, right? So a lot of times everyone's relying on LiveRamp. So the more that these partners are willing to expose that spine, the closer we are to having a higher match rate and getting that feedback loop of data. The feedback loop is like pivotal for us to understand like how we're actually measuring, especially for like CPG, right? Like they don't really have the first party data. It's all held within the retailer. So for us to start measuring on any sort of sales KPI and really get in with the marketing kind of philosophy and business goals, we need to understand that feedback loop and really connect at that spine. So from like a matching standpoint, any sort of integration, the more integrated you are, the more we'll get out of a kind of partnership in totality together.
It's a great point. I mean, the connection between the retail sales and the audience together is exciting because, as I mentioned before, it creates a custom universe in a sense for every single brand. And that's something that is evolving through the TV marketplace, and something that, we're leaning in big with Ampersand. So it's great that we hear that that's the way you guys are thinking through that. So fantastic on that. I have one last question, and I wanted each of you, it's the old one word, stealing Ethan's thing, so you can't use that, Ethan, if you come back on. But what would be the one word that you'd suggest people to focus on as TV, as targeting evolves in the TV industry? And what would you say from the consumer brand side, Lynn? What would be that one word? It's probably repetitive to what you said today.
Individuals, not segment, but individuals.
It's great to know, individuals. From the data side, Laura, what would you say on that?
I'm mute.
Oh,
Thank you. And I told myself, don't do that. I said, I'm going to use 2 words, and it's consumer consent.
consumer consent. That's great. And Megan, as you start, obviously you're going on this journey and becoming an expert in terms of connecting audiences with, consumers or audience profiles. What would you say?
I just talked about it. I would say integration.
Great. And last but not least, Lauren, on the investment side, what is the key here? Well, really, what is it?
Yeah, I think we've talked about a lot, but really that optimization.
Getting to the place where optimization is key, and evolving much like Universal, where everything is optimized from an audience standpoint. It's great. Well, collaboration and working relationships, critical extension to the success. You guys said that. Laura, you're passionate about it. You and I've spoken that in the past, but individuals, consumer, investment, optimization, that's what we got out of this, Ethan. Lynn, Laura, Lauren, Megan, thank you so much. I have to say it, but it's safe to say that we're all looking forward to what's on the horizon.